An ancient library was burned to the ground deliberately, and the one thing the destroyers never found was still inside. It wasn't a book. It was a map. And the coordinates on that map pointed to something so significant that 3 separate civilizations went to war over the right to own it. We have fragments of that map today. We have the translations. We have the expeditions that followed. What we don't have, what nobody has, is what the map was pointing to. And that silence is the most terrifying part of this entire story. Here's what we know. Around 48 BC, the Great Library of Alexandria suffered its first catastrophic fire. Most historians blame Julius Caesar. But there's a detail that gets consistently left out of textbooks. Before the flames, a small group of scholars removed a collection of scrolls. Not the famous ones. Not the philosophical texts or the mathematical proofs. They took something far more specific. A sealed archive that, according to 3 independent ancient sources, contained what was described as the record of the place before the first king. That phrase haunted researchers for centuries. What place? Before what king? And why was this archive sealed separately from everything else? That question alone launched over 40 documented expeditions across 4 continents. Most came back empty-handed. Some didn't come back at all. But here's what they were actually looking for. In 1928, a British archaeologist named Edmund Carey was working a dig site near the coast of modern-day Libya. He wasn't looking for the map. He was cataloging Roman-era ruins when his team found a chamber underneath a collapsed floor. Inside the chamber, 17 clay tablets. Pre-Roman. Possibly pre-Greek. Carey's field notes, which were classified by the British Museum within 6 months of his return, described one tablet in particular. He wrote, and I'm quoting directly, *, "The markings do not correspond to any known cartographic system. And yet they are unmistakably a map. The precision is not possible for the assumed era. The precision is not possible for the assumed era." Think about what that means. Carey spent the next 4 years trying to get those tablets analyzed by independent scholars. Every time, access was denied. The tablets were moved. The paperwork changed. And in 1932, Carey died of a sudden illness in Cairo, 3 weeks before he was scheduled to present his findings at Oxford. Coincidence? Maybe. But Carey was not the first person this happened to. And he would not be the last. Now here's where the story gets genuinely strange. And I want you to hold on to this detail because it becomes critical later. Going back to the scrolls removed from Alexandria, the ones taken before the fire, ancient sources give us 2 names of the scholars who carried them out. One name is lost. But the second, Hermodoros of Ephesus. Hermodoros was a known figure. A copyist, a translator. Unremarkable by most accounts. Except for one letter he wrote, recovered in the 19th century from a private collection in Vienna. In the letter, written to an unnamed recipient, Hermodoros describes what he saw in the sealed archive. He calls it the second geography. He says it describes a place with structures that were, in his words, not built by any people whose memory we carry. Not built by any people whose memory we carry. He then writes something that researchers have debated ever since. He says, the map does not show where to go. It shows where not to go back to. Where not to go back to. Meaning, someone had been there before. And whatever they found, or whatever found them, was reason enough to seal the record and bury it underneath the greatest library the ancient world had ever built. But the strangest part? That's still to come. Fast forward to 1971. A Soviet research team operating in the Caucasus Mountains, officially studying geological formations, discovers a cave system that had been artificially sealed from the inside. This detail barely made it into the public record. One Russian researcher, a geologist named Alexei Morozov, kept a private journal. After the Soviet Union fell, his daughter donated it to a university archive in Prague. In the journal, Morozov describes finding markings inside the sealed cave. He sketches them. His sketch, photographed and later published in a small academic journal in 1998, is strikingly similar to Carey's description of the Lydian tablets. Same unusual cartographic system. Same precision. Same problem: it shouldn't be possible for the assumed era. Two sites. Different continents. Thousands of years apart in apparent age. Same map. So now you have to ask, what was being mapped? And who mapped it the first time? Researchers who've studied this convergence, and there are more than you'd think, have zeroed in on a specific theory. Not Atlantis. Not aliens. Something more unsettling because it's harder to dismiss. The theory is this: at some point in deep prehistory, before recorded civilization, there existed a body of geographical knowledge so precise, so advanced, that it was considered sacred. Or dangerous. Possibly both. This knowledge was encoded, copied, protected. And then, at a certain point in history, the decision was made to hide it. Not destroy it. Hide it. The Great Library wasn't just a place of learning. For a specific group of people, it was the vault. And when the vault was threatened, they didn't save the poetry. They didn't save the astronomy. They saved one thing: the map. Here's the most significant detail in this entire story. The one that researchers keep coming back to. Every fragment, every reference, every partial translation of this map, all of them, without exception, indicate that the destination is not a ruin. Not a buried city. Not a sunken island. The map points to something that is allegedly still there. Intact. Hidden not by time or disaster, but by design. The Hermodoro's letter says it plainly: it waits as it was left. The leaving was the point. The leaving was the point. Whatever this place is, whatever was built there or found there or happened there, it was abandoned deliberately. The map was preserved not to help someone find it, but to make sure someone, someday, would know where never to go. And yet here we are. Centuries of scholars, explorers, governments, all of them pulling at this thread. All of them convinced that if they could just find the complete map, they'd finally understand what the ancient world was so desperate to forget. Edmund Carey thought he was close. Morozov thought he was close. There are 3 ongoing academic projects right now, quietly, that believe they're close. None of them talk to each other. And none of them talk publicly. That detail alone should tell you something. The Library of Alexandria burned. The sealed archive vanished. The tablets were classified. The cave was resealed. The letters were hidden in private collections for centuries. This is not a story of information being lost. This is a story of information being managed. And the question that keeps me up at night, the question that I don't think has a comfortable answer, is this. If the people who built the greatest library in human history decided that this one piece of knowledge needed to be sealed, hidden, protected, and ultimately sacrificed along with everything else they'd ever written, what exactly did they find at the end of that map? And should we actually be looking for it? If this story left you with more questions than answers, that's exactly the point. Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want to go deeper on the mysteries that history buried on purpose, subscribe to Nocturne Files. New case every week. The light's always on.